Hi, and welcome to Actually Sustainable podcast, where we help high achieving women, especially those with neurodivergence, build and protect a healthy life that is actually sustainable. All right, I'm Rachel. I am the physician assistant, educator, writer, person who's going to be your host. And yeah, the disclaimer is this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is not a substitute for any medical or mental health advice or medical care. So if you feel you need any individualized care, please reach out to a trained medical professional such as a doctor, therapist, whoever. Okay? What we're going to be doing now is starting the first unit. And it's basically the awareness of what burnout is and how it may be affecting you and how your neurodivergence in your life and all of that kind of ties in together so that you can recognize it in yourself. Because the very first step towards change is acknowledging that there's an issue and then acknowledging what that issue is and acknowledging that there's options to make changes. And so once we can do that first step, that acknowledging what the option, possibility, problems are, then we can start acknowledging them in ourselves and move forward. So we're going to start with that, and then we're going to move kind of through those stages over the next several months over the course of this year. So we're going to start with kind of acknowledging first, and then we're going to get to like deconstructing what that looks like and means in our lives. And then we're going to rebuild with some other newer, better options for how we can kind of manage our life. And then finally, we're going to kind of reintegrate those things that we've been learning into our day-to-day life and see if we can start getting our lifestyle to be more sustainable. All right, that's our kind of goal for the whole year. And then future years, we'll kind of revisit some of this stuff as well as working on moving into sustainable work, sustainable relationships, sustainable health options, those kind of things over the next couple of years. Okay, and if you notice, I'm going to be wearing the same shirt repeatedly because I do batches of stuff. So I'm batching my recordings. I hope you don't mind. But plus, I just absolutely love this shirt. I got it off eBay. I have no idea who I got it from. I'm sorry. That's one of the problems with brand awareness on eBay is we know eBay's brand, and unfortunately nobody else's. I'm sure I could look if anybody really wants to know. And maybe I'll put it in show notes. I don't know. But anyway, what we're doing today is we're going to talk about what the definition of burnout is. And how overall, one of the big feelings that we have is when we're burned out is that we're lazy, right? Whether that's an overachieving female in general or a neurodivergent brain, we tend to feel that we're lazy if we take rests, if we have a break, if we kind of do what we need to do to recover. Because when we're overwhelmed, everything feels like something that we need to do. And when we're not doing that, we feel like we're being lazy because we're not getting that done or that done or that done or whatever. And I'm here to tell you, first of all, nope, laziness is not a thing. We are not lazy, okay? None of you guys are lazy. None of you guys are not resilient. I will say, before I started recording, because this is new and I'm uncomfortable doing it, and it's this whole kind of world-ish thing, I don't know, imposter syndrome setting in, all of that, I kind of doom scrolled on my phone for like an hour and definitely kind of started that internal berating of I'm being lazy, I'm wasting all my time, this is crap, like, right? Where it is what it is, you know. I had the time and now I'm recording. I needed to get a little practice and I needed to do whatever. Could I have used that time better with more relaxing options if I wanted to actually relax? Yes, there's more actually relaxing options that I could have done. Or I could have been productive or whatever. But I'm not really lazy. That's not really a thing. There's actually a whole book called Laziness Does Not Exist by Devin Rice. Or Price, sorry, by Devin Price. I wrote it down. I couldn't read my own writing. And it basically talks about how laziness is really a construct, especially in this culture. He kind of pairs it to Puritan back in the day, who kind of helped some of the first people on this country as we developed the U.S. And so we ended up kind of building this whole society that we have to be productive. Our only benefit, our only things are we have to be productive in some way to have value, right? If you're a female, you have to be beautiful and productive, or productive, I guess, maybe. But so much of the time, our self-worth is tied to our productivity. And that's not healthy, right? You are not productivity, and nothing in this entire series is going to be productivity hacks or hustle culture or any of that. I can't stand it. I've done it and I burned out from it, and it's not sustainable. Okay. There are periods in life that we can't avoid having to hustle. There are times when we have to pick up that extra shift. We have to do whatever, that there's times where, like when I was per diem in the ER, I was working as an adjunct at the university, and I was the per diem in the ER, and they wouldn't give me shifts because I was just a per diem. So I wasn't full time, and they were fully staffed. Nobody was out sick. They didn't need me. And so then we started living off of savings. And then, a whole flurry of days came up that I could pick. And suddenly I'm working multiple 12-hour shifts a week, like 4 or 5. It was a lot, but I needed to do it to pay the bills, to keep putting food on the table, right? That is hustling that's required, but that's a season. That's a very set period of time. I would not have been able to maintain it. Yeah, there were years where I worked 5 days a week doing 10 to 12-hour days because that's what my job required. And it led to a whole lot of badness. So I won't do that anymore. And I hope you don't either. And that's what we're talking about, is the idea that even if you want a break, if you're feeling lazy, and like you need to be lazy, like you are overwhelmed, and all you want to do is just sit down and watch something on television or doom scroll for a little bit or whatever, that's okay. That's not laziness. That's taking a needed rest. That's taking the time you and your body and your emotional levels need to recover, to be functional again at another time. That is not laziness. Our society has put lazy as a bad word, right? It's in negative connotations. It's all sorts of things. So I don't want you using that term for yourself, because that's not anything helpful. The other component is when we feel like we're being lazy, it's because we have this internal running tally of all of the things that are required of us as well, right? And we're doing all of the mental tasks. We're managing the household. We're managing the menus. We're managing stuff for work. We're managing stuff for the kids if we have them, or the pets, or the whatevers that we're doing, or the projects that we're doing outside of it, whatever. We're processing all of those things constantly. We have that constant cognitive load of all of that we're paying attention to and monitoring, and it's just running in the back of our brains, especially if we have like neurodivergence, right? If we're ADHD, we tend to leave all of those tabs open, because if we close it out, even though it's technically still there, we don't remember it. It's gone. And maybe we'll remember it 6 months later, maybe if somebody else brings it up. Otherwise, it's gone, poof. So we tend to leave it there in the background, always running, always draining our active working memory, right? And that makes us feel like there's always something to do and we're always running behind. And so we feel lazy when we take our needed rest periods. And that's not the case, okay? There's a whole bunch of things, and we're going to get into them, about ways that you can help minimize that constant run in the back of your brain and the open tabs and all that. We'll get into that later. But really, for now, it's recognizing that that's the case, and recognizing those times that you start berating yourself and calling yourself lazy. And there's a difference between shame and guilt. And for those of you who don't know Brené Brown's work, I would highly recommend that you look her up. She has a great piece, which off the top of my head, I can't remember which book it's in, but it's about, I think it's The Gift of Imperfection, which is a fantastic book for you guys to read as well, if you'd like. But I think it's in there about the difference between shame and guilt. And guilt is feeling rightly guilty because you did something or didn't do something that goes against your internal moral code. Whereas shame is just basically a surface level thing imposed on us by other people. And it's not necessarily helpful in any way. And there's a bunch of research that's been done about shame versus guilt and how things are done. And I mean, even boot camp for the military has been changed because it's no longer trying to shame people because it's not as helpful. They have better results with different training models. So shaming yourself and calling yourself lazy and trying to motivate yourself that way is not going to work. Okay, it's not helpful, it's not useful, and it's not going to make you actually relax and recover during the time that you're taking to relax. So it's kind of not being productive, and it's wasting time, and it's not being useful. So here's my kitty. You might see her periodically. I have two that look almost identical, but this one's the only one who will come say hi. Her name is Toothless, by the way. So what I want you guys to do this time, if you're feeling up to it, is pay attention, be mindful. That word's a word that's being banted around a lot in modern world cycles and circles and everything. Mindfulness and meditation, and a lot of people kind of think it's woo-woo kind of stuff, but really it's basically slowing down the traffic so you can see the car. If you're waiting to, yell at somebody in their car, like your mom is driving by and you want to wave and say hi, but everybody's going at, highway speeds, you're probably not going to catch your mom's car. There's 3 lanes of traffic, everybody's going highway speeds. You're not going to be able to see just that one car if it's not right in front of you and you happen to be looking at it. So the chances are very low. If you can slow it down and have them all go 15, 20 miles an hour, maybe bring it down to a 1-lane road, and maybe 30 miles an hour. Most of us can follow that. Right? In only 1 lane, and they go right in front of you, that's a whole lot easier to identify the car. Even a 2-lane, going 15 to 30 miles an hour. That's what mindfulness is. It's just basically slowing things down enough and separating it out enough that you can recognize what it is. We're not judging, we're not doing anything, we're not acting on, we're not, we'll get into a lot of that later too, but slowing it down to acknowledge it. And so that's my goal for you this time is, 1, recognize when you're calling yourself lazy in that cycle, whatever terminology you use. And leave me a comment. Tell me what phrases you hear in your head. When you're berating yourself for being lazy, what are the phrases that come out? And it'd be interesting to see how similar people from all over the place are, right? The phrases that we tend to use, especially in the same culture, tend to be very, very similar. So please leave me a comment on that. And then look at it and see what some of those open tabs might be. What are some of the invisible tasks that are just there all the time, kind of running in the back of your brain? Those responsibilities that just drain your energy without really being useful or even necessary. You don't need to actively be doing work on them right now, but yet they are actively draining some of your energy. Try to see if you can find some of those and write them down, and just acknowledge that they exist. That's all. I'm not going to have you do anything with them yet. Just acknowledge, recognize, and acknowledge. All right? And then you can put those in the comments too if you'd like, and then we can go into what and how they mean at a later date. All right, if this resonated with you and you like it, maybe share it with friends or family. Give me a follow on the podcast or subscribe if it's on YouTube. And, a review would also go a long way. This is an early, just starting podcast. So a review and a share would be a huge help to get this out to other people. But I did hope, if nothing else, it resonated with you in some capacity. And I'd love to hear from you if you can. If you'd like, you can go to actuallysustainable.com. I have a couple courses on there, and a few things that you can download for free, or you can join my newsletter, etc. All right, my dears, until next time, have a good one, and do your best. It's okay. I know you already are doing your best. Just keep up. All right? Keep at it, I guess. Not keep up. That doesn't sound helpful. Keep at it.